Tell us about yourself and why you are running to represent Congressional District 5.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and this is not a cliche for politics, this is truly what's driving me right now, is I'm just a patriot who loves God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. And I'm unapologetic about defending those. I've spent a career in law enforcement. I was a businessman before that. I've been fighting, meeting the enemy on the battlefield, fighting for people's rights, protecting them. And in this time right now where we're at as a country, I just could not walk away. As much as I wanted to ride off into the sunset, I couldn't do it. I think the stakes are too high. And I think now more than ever, we need proven people that will go in and protect the American people, fight for their freedoms, fight for what our founding fathers set up for us. And that is truly what drives me. Probably the most important thing about me, though, is I'm a husband, 32 years, my wife Janelle going on 33 years. Um, I am also actually 34 years. Sorry, don't tell her that. 34 years. I'm pretty confident she probably won't watch the recording. 34 years we've been married this year. And I've got 5 kids. I've lost one of them, but we have 4 living kids, and we have our 8th grandchild on the way right now. And very blessed to be just a father, a husband, a grandpa, and an American.
No, that's great. Thank you. Um, so, so looking at it from your role as a congressman, what do you see as the federal government's role in fostering economic development in Gilbert?
Well, first of all, the federal government has far exceeded what the role of the founding fathers had for them. They've put their nose into the business of businesses across this country and Americans. I think they've restricted in many ways the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, being that opportunity to go out and build a business for yourself and your family. Government overreach, government regulations, all of the government pressure they put on small businesses has really weighed heavy on them. The state, I feel like they've really encroached on the state as well. I'm a huge 10th Amendment guy. I think that, like it says, anything not enumerated in the Constitution should be reserved for the states, and the states should be the ones that run that. And I would love to see more state authority, less federal government. And I hope that when I go to Washington, D.C., I can be a catalyst for peeling back a lot of this government regulation. Just one example, under the last 4 years, the last administration, I think the number was 52,000 new pages of EPA regulations, which was costing billions of dollars to the American businessmen, which ultimately is going to affect the consumer and also the employees. And I think that that is not the role that government should play in our lives. I think they should protect us and give us the right and the ability to go out and build what we can for ourselves and for our families and our communities. And I think that's what our founding fathers intended. And I hope to peel that government back when I get to Washington, D.C.
Got it. How will you work to ensure federal support for education and workforce development in our community?
Well, first of all, I'm one of those people who think that the Department of Education on a federal level shouldn't be there. I think what we should be seeing, though, is more funding opportunities through the state, because I think this should be a state thing that encourages young men and women to continue their education. I'm not against college. I think there is a place for people to go to college. I think engineers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, there's a lot of different professions. But I think we've really turned a blind eye and really probably not given it the justice it deserves, which is the trades, especially with AI, the way it's rising up now. We might see a lot of people losing jobs that maybe came from that college world sector, where people that are in the trades are probably going to be excelling and rising to the top in the next few years. So I would love to see the state, with the support of some, if you're going to put dollars towards it, let's put those dollars right towards the students, and let's help them get the education that they need, whether it's college, whether it's trade schools. But I certainly would like to see a more emphasis on trade schools. I think the businesses out there could use that, especially in the construction industry and a lot of other industries that could use people in the trades.
Got it. What steps would you take to help secure reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy and water resources to support business growth in Gilbert and Arizona?
I think one of the things that we see in the federal government is we see elected officials, they get elected and then they don't ever do any homework. They don't go look and see what the border is. They don't go and see how power or water affects Arizonans or Americans. A congressman in Maryland, their vote affects us in Arizona and the water we have and those issues just as much as our vote does here in Arizona. And so, what I would like to see is more education from our elected officials before they vote and knowing what they're voting on. What we're seeing now in Arizona is now with AI. I was with APS the other day, and the demand that we will see on our power structure is going to require that we bring in more natural gas and more energy resources. I'm a huge proponent of nuclear. We are blessed to have the Palo Verde plant in our state, one of the most reliable, most energy producing power plants, I think, in the world. I think it might be the number one in the world. But we've also got a lot of energy demands that will be coming up in the future. And so one of those is I would love to help. APS talked about the importance of the pipeline coming from Texas for natural gas into Arizona. That's something we're going to need to make sure that the businesses' needs are met without passing that cost on to the consumer and the average person. I think that is going to be one of the big issues we're going to be facing. Water, there's an old saying, and my wife hates this joke: whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. We have a real issue. Pinal County is a perfect example of what happens when you cut back on our water. What we had is farmers, you can't blame them. They got to go out and make a dollar still with the land, and they didn't have the water to raise the crops they wanted. A lot of those turned into solar fields, and a lot of them are, obviously they felt that was best for them and their families. But I would like to see that water to where we can continue to grow the products that have made Arizona the 4 Cs, but cattle and cotton being 2 of those 4 Cs, and citrus, all 3 things requiring water. And then you talk about Yuma. I think a lot of people don't realize Yuma produces 93%, ships 97% of all leafy greens in America and North America, Canada and America, from October to April. We got to have that water from the Colorado River. And so I'm going to do what I can on the federal level to ensure that we are protecting Arizona and their right to water so that we can continue to grow in this state, but also not lose what has made this state great over the 100 years that we've been a state. The second piece of that would be to empower the states to be able to do what they need to do to protect the water source moving forward, whether it's for homes, whether it's for businesses, farms, any of those things. I think we can accomplish it all, but it's going to take a two-prong approach, federal, but more state, with the support of the federal government, a congressman and at the federal level.
Got it.
Well,
Thanks.
yeah, we got 3 more questions. So, affordable healthcare and housing, along with effective immigration policies, are essential to maintaining a strong workforce. How should the federal government address these needs?
Well, I'm glad that you put those 2 in the same question, because I think people overlook this. In the last 4 years, we saw an increase of what I think is conservatively 15 million people injected into this country, many in Arizona and all across. If you don't think that that has an impact on housing and affordable housing, we're kidding ourselves. Not to mention, you have a lot of people that are making money in this country who came illegally, who are not paying taxes. Maybe that money gets sent back to the country where they came from, where their family's from. This is going to have an impact on our economy. This might drive a little bit of inflation. All of these things are going to have an adverse impact on Americans, especially when it comes to trying to find a home. These kids nowadays, I talk to voters, young voters, and they are very frustrated because they don't have the ability to go out. It's much more difficult. If I had to buy my own home again, I don't know that I would qualify to buy my own home again based on the value. And I'm grateful that it went up this much. But how does anybody else afford to buy those houses? And so I think there's a lot of work that we can do. I think the biggest thing that drives this is government pretending that they are the solution to problems when they are actually the creators of the problems. I think that government should never be the answer. We should never look to them as being the answer to solve some of these issues. Really, what we need is for government to get out of the way and let businesses and states do what they need to do to get the proper housing, to provide the proper jobs, and let the market dictate what that is, instead of the federal government burdening us with regulations to the point where it affects all of those things that I just mentioned.
Well, and it's funny you said regulations because the next question is what actions will you take to promote effective government policies and a business-friendly tax structure?
I've been a businessman before I was a police officer, and I'm currently a businessman. As a matter of fact, not only are we raising cattle in Arizona, Utah, but we've just now expanded out here into Tennessee. My kids are running this ranch. I'm here this week to help them out and to kind of take my mind off of politics, frankly. But what that means is we've got a lot of work to do, but there's always those regulations. One of the very first things I asked when I came out here and looked at this property is I said, what type of permitting regulations do you have? What type of zoning regulations do you have? How sad is that I have to actually to know whether I can grow my business quickly or appropriately or successfully? It depends on how burdensome the government may be, whether it's through permitting or through regulations. Obviously, we've got a lot of this on the state level, but there's a lot on the federal level. I have people ask me all the time, what kind of bills are you going to run, Sheriff? I think we need bills that will affect border security and immigration and fix these long term, as opposed to just executive orders, which are kind of just a Band-Aid right now. We've also got to make sure that above and beyond that, what I hope to do is pass laws that peel back laws that are already on the books. I don't think we need more laws. We definitely don't need more regulations. What we need are elected officials who will actually go and peel all that stuff back and really unleash the American firepower, which is the free market. It has been that way for so long, and we're choking the life out of it with government. So a lot of that is just going to be systematically going through some of the laws that are already on the books and seeing how we peel back that overreach from the government, especially into our business lives.
Well, and our last question, how will you stay connected with and responsive to the Gilbert business community? Please provide examples.
One of the things that I've shown over the last 8 years as the sheriff is how available and how communicative I am with the public, and how much I love being part of the public. This is not lost on me. Just because you're going from sheriff to Congress, I think even more so now, it expands me outside of Pinal and even into some of Maricopa County, into some great communities who are very familiar with me. But that's not going to stop just because I'm moving it, half the time to Washington, D.C. I think I've shown over the years that I do know how to communicate with our community and be within the community and be seen as a true elected official and a servant of the people. And I have no doubt that we're going to continue to do some of the creative things and some of the consistent messaging things that we've done as a sheriff and as a sheriff's office. We're going to do that at the Congressional office and on a federal level as well. I think that Americans are hungry for an elected official who's going to be honest with them and talk to them about what is truly going on in Washington, D.C., instead of being felt like we weren't part of the club and we got locked outside the door. I just think that Americans, especially here in this district and in Arizona, are ready for somebody like myself who's proven that I can communicate and I understand the importance of that communication with those whom I serve.